Stop scrolling. This is not just another concert story. This is something that left even officials speechless. Flushed face. Welcome back to Jikook Lover, the place where the biggest mysteries about BTS finally come to light. Before we go any further, make sure you hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear might completely change how you see this event forever. Imagine a city that was never considered the center of the world, suddenly becoming the focus of global attention overnight. What really happened in El Paso that made an official boldly call this the biggest event in history? Was this really just about music, or is there something much bigger we're not being told? Collision. No one was truly prepared for what happened that night. Not even those who claimed they had seen it all. Massive concerts, world tours, sold-out stadiums. Nothing quite matched what unfolded in El Paso when BTS arrived. At first, everything seemed normal. Or at least, it appeared that way on the surface. The city moved as it always did, with its usual rhythm, its familiar pace. But slowly, almost quietly, something began to shift. Hotels started filling up faster than expected. Streets became crowded with faces from different countries. Languages blended into one another on every corner. There was no official announcement declaring this would be the biggest. No early headlines daring to make such a bold claim. And yet, the energy building beneath the surface, it was impossible to ignore. Then the concert began, and what followed was no longer just about music. It wasn't just the stage, the lights, or the flawless performances. There was something else, something larger, something even local officials struggled to fully explain. One statement quickly spread across platforms, going viral almost instantly. An official involved in the event spoke with unusual honesty, without the typical restraint. They described the concert as the largest event ever held in the region, not just in production value, but in overall scale. The question is how? What made this concert so different from thousands of others around the world? Was it simply the global power of BTS? Or was there something deeper, something beyond numbers, beyond charts, beyond what can be measured? Witnesses began sharing their experiences. Many described the atmosphere inside the venue as unreal, as if time itself had slowed down, as if everyone present had become part of something far greater than themselves. Outside the venue, the impact was just as astonishing. Local businesses experienced a surge unlike anything before. Restaurants struggled to keep up with demand. Transportation systems were pushed to their limits. A city that once moved quietly suddenly found itself at the center of global attention. But what stood out the most wasn't just the economic effect. It was the emotional response. Why were so many people calling this more than a concert? Why did some describe it as a historic moment rather than a performance? Social media only deepened the mystery. Clips began circulating, short videos capturing intense reactions, tears, laughter, and moments so emotionally charged they were difficult to explain. Some even started asking a question that felt almost unbelievable. Was this really just about music? Or has BTS reached a level that goes far beyond entertainment itself? At first, many dismissed the official statement as exaggeration, just another attempt to amplify attention. But as more details emerged, it became harder to ignore that something truly different had taken place. Analysts tried to compare it to other global events, but even those comparisons felt incomplete. Because what happened in El Paso wasn't just about physical scale. It was about emotional impact, about how a single night could reshape perceptions, not only of a city, but of what a concert can actually mean. And then came an even bigger question. Why here? Why this city? Was it coincidence? Or part of something more deliberate, something we haven't fully understood yet? Some fans believe that every move BTS makes carries deeper meaning, that nothing is ever random, that every location, every moment, every interaction is part of a much larger narrative. But not everyone agrees. Others argue this is simply the undeniable power of fandom, a real-world demonstration of how millions of people can transform an event into a global phenomenon just by showing up. And yet, even that explanation doesn't fully answer everything. Because if this was only about fandom, why were local officials so surprised? Why did those accustomed to organizing major events seem the most affected? Is there something happening behind the scenes that hasn't been revealed? The more people try to find answers, the deeper the mystery seems to grow. Maybe the explanation is simple. Maybe it was just the perfect combination of timing, place, and global influence. Or maybe this is a sign of something bigger. A shift. A moment where the boundaries between music, culture, and global influence begin to blur in ways we've never seen before. And if that's true, then what happened in El Paso might not be the end of the story. It might only be the beginning. Because if one concert can create this level of impact, what happens next? Will more cities experience the same transformation overnight? Will we see more moments that defy explanation? The question lingered long after the lights dimmed and the final note faded into the night air. It didn't disappear with the crowd, and it didn't quiet down when the city slowly returned to its usual rhythm. If anything, it grew louder, more persistent, more difficult to ignore, because something about that night refused to stay in the past. In the days that followed, El Paso was no longer just a location on the map. It became a topic of discussion across continents. News outlets, fan communities, analysts, everyone seemed to be circling the same question, yet no one could fully answer it. What exactly happened there? At first, people focused on the obvious. Attendance numbers, ticket demand, economic spikes. The kind of measurable data that usually defines a successful event. And yes, by every traditional metric, the concert by BTS exceeded expectations. But the more people looked at the data, the clearer it became that numbers alone couldn't explain the reaction. Because numbers don't usually make people emotional days later. Numbers don't create a sense of disbelief that lingers. Numbers don't cause officials, people trained to remain composed, to describe something with words that feel almost personal. That's when the narrative began to shift. Instead of asking, how big was it? People started asking, what did it feel like? And that's where things became even more complicated. Attendees began sharing stories that sounded strikingly similar, even if they came from completely different backgrounds. They spoke about a strange sense of connection, not just to the artists on stage, but to everyone around them. A feeling that, for a brief moment, thousands of strangers were somehow synchronized, emotionally, mentally, even physically. Some described it as overwhelming. Others called it unforgettable. A few went further, suggesting it felt almost surreal, like stepping into a moment that didn't quite belong to ordinary reality. Skeptics were quick to push back. They argued that this is what concerts are supposed to do. That music has always had the power to unite people, to create shared emotional experiences. That nothing about this was truly unprecedented. But even those arguments seemed to fall short. Because if this was something that happens all the time, why did this moment stand out so much? Why did it trigger such a strong reaction not only from fans, but from people who had no prior connection to BTS at all? Local residents who hadn't attended the concert still reported feeling the impact. They noticed a shift in energy across the city, the way conversations changed, the way people interacted differently, even briefly. It was subtle, but it was there. And that's when a more unsettling possibility began to emerge. What if this wasn't just about performance, but presence? What if the influence of BTS extends beyond the stage in ways we don't fully understand? It's an idea that sounds almost exaggerated at first. But the more you examine the reactions, the harder it becomes to dismiss entirely. Because influence, in its most powerful form, isn't always visible. It doesn't always show up in charts or headlines. Sometimes, it reveals itself in how people feel, how they think, how they remember. And memory, perhaps, is the most important part of the story. Days after the event, people weren't just recalling what they saw. They were reliving how it made them feel. The anticipation, the intensity, the release. Moments that seemed to replay in their minds with unusual clarity. Why did this experience stay so vivid? Why did it refuse to fade like so many other events do? Some experts suggest that emotionally charged environments can enhance memory retention. That when people experience something collectively intense, it becomes more deeply embedded in their minds. But even that explanation feels incomplete. Because what happened in El Paso wasn't just remembered, it was revisited, rediscussed, reanalyzed, almost as if people were trying to decode it after the fact. And maybe that's the key. Maybe this wasn't just an event to be experienced in the moment. Maybe it was something designed, intentionally or not, to leave a lasting question behind. A question that doesn't have a simple answer. Because the more you try to define what made this concert different, the more it seems to resist definition. Was it the scale, the energy, the timing, the global reach? Or was it something less tangible, something that can't be easily explained, but can still be deeply felt? As discussions continue, one thing becomes increasingly clear. Whatever happened that night didn't end when the concert did. It continues to unfold, in conversations, in memories, in the way people describe it. Not with certainty, but with curiosity. And perhaps that's what makes it so significant. Not just that it happened, but that it left something unresolved. something that keeps people asking questions. Because in the end, maybe the real impact of BTS in El Paso isn't just about what was seen or heard, but about what still hasn't been fully understood. And if that's true, then maybe the biggest story isn't the concert itself. Maybe it's what comes after. Because if one night can leave behind this many unanswered questions, what else could be happening that we simply haven't noticed yet?